Hello and welcome. Formula E has been around for several years now, and while I was aware of it, I had yet to look at it in more detail. And the more I learned about Formula E, the more interested I became. In the background here, I'll run some footage of a version of the second generation of Formula E in Assetto Corsa that I was driving with an Xbox controller, since my Thrustmaster T300 base is broken again, and a used Thrustmaster TSB Racer base that I had invested in rather than pay to have my T300 repaired straight away is currently in eBay parcel delivery delay hell of some sort. I don't know, but sometimes it feels that luck just isn't on my side when it comes to the use of sim racing gear. I didn't switch to chase cam view though, not even when reduced to using a gamepad. Hardcore all the way, my friends. Not that there's anything wrong with using a gamepad, of course. Many do, and are more than likely a lot faster than I would be even when using a wheel. To begin, I guess one of the first major references to Formula E for me, and as it pertains to sim racing as well, was the Visa Vegas eRace event held in January 2017, which featured a simulation of the first generation of Formula E. The event, hosted in R Factor 2, featured a custom Las Vegas circuit which graphically looked quite poor, and the Formula E Fanboost concept implemented during the virtual race was a bit of a mess. It's kind of funny how in hindsight these systems appear to work okay in real world races, but couldn't function during the Visa Vegas simulation, but more on this later. And later, the developers of R Factor 2, Studio 397, added the official 2018 first generation Formula E car and the Hong Kong street circuit to their simulation, and which I later purchased as well. The Carfection channel on YouTube released a video on the new second generation Formula E car, and in this case the Audi e-tron FE05, along with Alan McNish, who was leading the team. It was a very interesting video, and given that the first generation Formula E car is available in R Factor 2, and the ACFL modding team in France have released a mod of the second generation car for Assetto Corsa, and now the 2018-2019 season featuring the second generation car has begun, I thought it might be a good time to take a closer look at Formula E. We'll begin with the first generation of Formula E as featured in the first 4 seasons. 10 teams entered the first season, and as the cars had limited range, they would change cars mid-race. During qualifying, the first generation cars had a peak power limit of 200 kilowatts, around 270 brake horsepower, and during a race a power output limit of between 150 and 170 kilowatts. The first generation battery specification included a 200 kilogram weight limit, delivering 28 kilowatt hours of maximum usable energy. The 2018-2019 Season 5 has begun, and one of the official promos describes Formula E as the fastest growing form of motorsport on the planet. In Season 5, BMW becomes a full manufacturer-led team, joining Audi, DS, Neo and Nissan, which takes the place of Renault. The Nissan Leaf is one of the world's best-selling electric cars, so it no doubt benefits Nissan to get involved heavily in Formula E. Marc Priestley notes in the video discussing Formula E that the elements of the first generation Formula E were powered by a motor used in the McLaren P1 road car, and Renault have been using electric race car components in their concept electric vehicles. So with electric vehicles, it's possible to transfer components from a road to a race car and vice versa. While on the flip side of this, in a way, there's the £2.5 million AMG hypercar, powered by an F1 engine, and it took them some time, it seems, to get the 1.6 litre V6 turbo from a 2015 Mercedes F1 car to behave well in a road car. There's also Jaguar, Mahindra Racing and the French manufacturer Venturi taking part in Season 5 of Formula E. A Formula E website post lists Porsche and Mercedes as joining later. 11 teams will participate in 13 race events across Season 5. Jean-Eric Vergne is the reigning Formula E champion from Season 4, and there are some highly qualified drivers taking part in Season 5. For example, Eduardo Mortara, Antonio Felix da Costa and Gary Paffett, who have taken part in the DTM championships, and indeed Gary Paffett is the reigning DTM champion. Alan McNish points out in the Carfection video that the second generation cars use a standard gearbox and differential, along with an electric motor and inverter system. An inverter is the device that converts electricity from DC to AC current to drive the electric motor. And the software systems managing the car can be developed during the season, since the car itself, the hardware layer if you will, is homologated by the FIA. Alan McNish also notes that the sounds of the cars from the various manufacturers has started to change, so it may now be possible to identify them from their sounds. Before we begin discussing the second generation of Formula E in more detail, I must give a shout out to FerrariMan601 on YouTube, who brought the second generation to my attention with his detailed video on the ACFL mod for Assetto Corsa. I'll include a link below in the description so you can check out his video for yourself. I've been reading some comments that the ACFL mod may be somewhat inaccurate, but it's a good start I guess until updates or alternatives come along, which I believe are indeed on the way. Studio 397 are working on an official version of the second generation Formula E car to be released in R-Factor 2 at some point. It's interesting when reading sim racing news posts related to Formula E and, for example, the R-Factor 2 Formula E related content. Many comments ask how many have actually purchased the content and are still actively using it. And many comment that they purchased the Formula E Generation 1 content for R-Factor 2 but quickly got bored, while others still continue to enjoy it. Perhaps in terms of Formula E, in both the real world and in simulations, it's more of a marathon than a sprint. The second generation cars will have a maximum power output of 250 kilowatts, around 335 brake horsepower, and a top speed of 280 kilometers per hour, which is around 174 miles per hour. Race power will now be 200 kilowatts, the qualifying limit of the first generation, and second generation qualifying includes a 25% power increase, up to 250 kilowatts, around 340 brake horsepower, along with 25% more torque. And according to Formula E driver Lucas de Grassi, the second generation offers a 3 to 5% lap time improvement, equivalent to around 2 seconds per minute. There will be 22 cars per race in Season 5, and currently practice, qualifying and the race itself occur on the same day. There's now double the energy storage capacity from a 385 kilogram battery, containing a maximum power output of 54 kilowatt hours, permanently monitored by the FIA. During a race, the on-screen graphics can display the battery charge remaining for each car. A Season 5 race will run for 45 minutes, and once the 45 minutes are up, the first driver to cross the finish line begins a final flying lap to the checkered flag. The second generation cars won't utilise the mid-race car changes of the first generation, and there are now no pit stops either. I noted a comment that this setup makes it tricky to manage power, since the teams can't know beforehand how fast the 45-minute race might be, and therefore how many laps each driver may potentially need to complete. The second generation Formula E cars are allocated 8 tyres per race event. All teams will use an all-weather 18-inch Michelin Pilot Sport tyre for use in both wet and dry conditions. Ferrari-Man 601 notes that a second generation car weighs about 900 kilos, about the same as an LMP1 hybrid car, including the battery. And it's interesting when you consider that a modern Formula 1 car weighs between 630 and 640 kilos. And the second generation cars will also feature the halo system from Formula 1, which will illuminate to show the different colours for each of the 2 available Formula E power modes. More on these later. Again, from the video by Ferrari-Man 601, I learned that the first generation Formula E rear wing design has been replaced with a split profile downwash wing to reduce turbulence on a car approaching from behind, as well as a large rear diffuser. The Formula 1 overtaking group in 2005 set to design a better system, allowing cars to follow closer nose to tail in corners. This split profile downwash wing design was to be put in use in Formula 1 in 2008, but that never happened. And on a side note, this rear wing design is used in the Nissan Delta Wing project, which was later bought by Panos. And Matt and Samantha Malone, who appeared on the podcast, have a vlog of their visit to Road Atlanta and a tour of the Panos cars which were on display there. Given how tight the Formula E street circuits are, like for example Hong Kong, this new wing design is something that was no doubt necessary. And in turn it gets me thinking that if the range of the Formula E cars increases over time, along with improved handling, perhaps in the future Formula E will no longer be limited to racing on street circuits. Although, as Jimmy points out in his video on the ACFL Formula E Generation 2 mod for Assetto Corsa, since the cars are limited in the power they can regenerate while braking, along with their onboard battery capacity, circuits with extended straights like Spa and Monza wouldn't be suitable, so it's street circuits only right now. And back to Matt and Samantha Malone's recent visit to Road Atlanta, where they were shown the Mazda RT24P IMSA prototype, featuring a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo engine. And one of the drivers of that car is Lucas Di Grassi, a former Formula E champion and who will continue now in Season 5 of Formula E. Formula E have taken a sort of tongue-in-cheek approach to the, some would say, Mario Kart-like power boost elements to be included in Season 5. The fan boost concept from the first generation remains. Fans can vote to give a fan boost to their favourite Formula E driver during a race event. You can vote using just one of 3 methods. Visit the fan boost section of the FIAFormulaE.com website, or on Twitter using hashtag fanboost and hashtag driver name, or using the Formula E app. You can vote right up to 15 minutes into a race. And after 22 minutes of racing in Season 5, Fan Boost will be offered to 5 drivers. This boost increases the race output from 200 to 225 kilowatts, delivered in a 5-second burst. I noted that during the first race of Season 5, a commentator stated that the halo lights up magenta when Fan Boost is active, although elsewhere I'd seen references to the light being purple in colour. And new in Season 5 is Attack Mode, and where again drivers can boost their race output from 200 to 225 kilowatts. Basically, for each race the organisers will assign an Attack Mode activation zone somewhere outside the driving line on the circuit. A driver must then enter the zone during the race, indicated by 2 lines, and once positioned correctly, the Attack Mode sensor in the middle of the car can activate the additional Attack Mode boost. Use of attack mode is mandatory, it seems, and cannot be used during the first 2 or 3 laps of a race, and the length of time the boost is active and the number of times you can activate this mode is not revealed leading up to a race. When watching a race, the on-screen graphics will show the use of attack mode, and in this example, how much remains out of the 4-minute period, offering the 225 kilowatt power boost of attack mode. And again, I'd seen references to the halo illuminated in red to indicate the use of attack mode, whereas in this first race of Season 5 it was actually blue. And finally, fan boost and attack mode can be used together for a maximum output of 250 kilowatts during a race. In my starter guide video for Assetto Corsa, I went through the energy recovery systems used by the hybrid powered F1 and LMP1 cars, and which has been outlined in more detail by Stefano Foncunos. And as you'd expect, Formula E also utilizes an energy recovery system, and in this case an intelligent brake-by-wire system, added to the rear axle of the second generation cars. This system harvests energy under braking, and it's stated that the brake-by-wire system allows for greater electronic control of the rear brakes that improves the feel for the drivers and maximizes power regeneration. Teams view such an active braking system as one of the key technologies needed in the series, especially with qualifying and race power increasing in Season 5. During the first race of Season 5, some of the Audi cars lost their qualifying places due to power spikes detected by the power output monitoring systems, which it seems was caused by the rear wheels spinning when they left the ground due to a bump in the start-finish straight. Also, it seems that the new brake-by-wire system may potentially have been causing issues during practice and qualifying when the track was wet. And not long after the first race of Season 5 had started, Eduardo Mortara hit a wall, which again may have been due to braking issues related to use of the brake-by-wire system. And during that same race, one of the drivers missed hitting the attack mode activation area correctly. The Mario Kart elements we referred to earlier are smart, and along with some other content I've seen, clearly indicate that they're hoping to grab the attention of a specific demographic. They recently also published a Fallout 76 parody video, which to those of us who follow gaming is perhaps not the way to go. And while I was creating this video, I was capturing some elements of the first event of Season 5, since I figured the best way to learn more about Formula E and to see the various tactics and technologies in action was to see how they perform during an actual race event. The race itself was entertaining, albeit with some improvements needed in the overall presentation. For some reason though, that video was later pulled from YouTube, at least for me. Luckily I had subscribed to the ABB Formula E channel on YouTube, and later noticed a re-upload of the race, minus the earlier warm-up section. And then I noticed later that the full coverage video, which had been pulled from YouTube, became available again. I'm not sure what was happening there. And a studio-based live stream event during the race, featuring KSI in a badly set up sim rig, playing what appeared to be Real Racing 3, which is mainly a mobile game as far as I'm aware. I'll include the best part here though. Just watch this and let it sink in for a while.
This is easy, bro.
Yeah.
I do this for breakfast.
Yeah?
I eat this.
Wow, that's a weird thing to eat, but fair.
What part of it do you eat?
Oh, the tail,
Right, good.
the front, the back, everything.
Okay, so Bird's got an attack mode left.
Bird's gone in attack.
No, he hasn't got it. He's like
He's actually on down 16, so it's just not going well. It's not going well for me.
Oh, yeah.
Same well for him, apparently, though.
Oh,
JJ,
This is the way the drivers actually drive.
Seb's in the lead, by the way.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it's all working. Oh, it's all good.
Anyway,
Oh, second lap.
so
Oh.
That's what I was expecting the first lap.
You got cocky. Reverse. You're pretty good at this. Okay, that's. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, just keep driving forward.
Yeah.
Now go forward.
Auto brands like Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Jaguar, Nissan and Porsche, the list goes on, are obviously serious about electric vehicles. Audi are allowing bloggers to drive electric vehicle concepts at this point. And given the amounts these brands spend on marketing, I don't think they'd choose to be associated with some of the marketing Formula E is currently doing. That's just my opinion, or maybe I'm just too old to get it at this point. And a final point on the Real Racing 3 mobile game used during the livestream event featuring KSI, and which will bring us back around to R Factor 2, as used in the Visa Vegas eRace event we referred to earlier. At a recent Formula E event in Santiago, they held a sim racing event where fans could compete against real Formula E drivers. They were using Fanatec gear, it seems, perhaps their new F1 set, which Gamer Muscle recently reviewed. And the host was none other than Rene Butler from Studio 397, the developers of R Factor 2. And again they were running the mobile game Real Racing 3. Which is odd when you consider the fact that during the McLaren Shadow Project event, they utilise R Factor 2, and as we noted earlier, Studio 397 are already working on an official version of the second generation Formula E car. And thanks to the work of the guys at Studio 397, R Factor 2 has come a long way, since its appearance during the Visa Vegas eRace event 2 years ago. And the McLaren Shadow Project event also included Real Racing 3, and on a tablet, where I assume it belongs. Formula E, I wish you the best of luck, and in some aspects you're perhaps going to need it. Until next time, thank you.